You're listening to episode 39 of A Whole New You podcast. On today's show, we're interviewing Jamie Karlovits, whose daughter Emily has Down syndrome. We discuss the ways in which Jamie supports her daughter, the challenges and triumphs they face, common stereotypes surrounding Down syndrome, and how Jamie manages to add in self-care despite her very busy schedule. This is a touching episode filled with insight, sensitivity, and loving kindness. We hope that you'll truly enjoy it and share it with others who might need to hear it. Welcome to A Whole New You podcast. I'm your co-host, Kim Maravich. I'm a registered nurse and author of the book 360 Health. I'm joined by my dear friend, Lori Biddle, a health and wellness coach certified through the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. Our show exists to inspire and empower women to take charge of their health, with weekly tips and conversation about self-care, mindset, nutrition, fitness, and clean living. Please keep in mind that the material provided in this podcast is intended as general information only and should not be used as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. We're thrilled to have you here. Let's get to the show. Before we get to the show, I would like to read a 5-star review that we received through iTunes. The title is Knowledgeable and Caring, and this comes from TL3. Lori and Kim are quite the dynamic duo. Not only are they extremely knowledgeable, they are committed to improving the health and wellness of so many people. It was an honor to be a guest on their podcast. Lori is easy to talk with and is truly committed to providing the best possible advice and information on so many needed and relevant topics. I love everything about what they do. And that review comes from Anne Marie, whom we interviewed on the Clean Juice episode. So Anne Marie, thank you for taking the time to leave us a review. We so appreciate that, and we loved having you on the show. Reviews help to boost our rankings in iTunes, and they help people find our show who might not already know about it. So if you're listening right now, why don't you pause the show, head over to iTunes. You can subscribe there and also leave us a rating and review. If you do, we will be sure to read your review on a future episode. Now let's get to the show. Welcome back, everybody. Today I have the honor of interviewing Jamie Karlovits. Jamie is a stay-at-home mom to 3 kids plus a furry one. Her daughter Emily has Down syndrome and has added the title of special needs mom to her credentials. She shares her busy and crazy life with her husband, Doug. Jamie has a blog called Mindful in the Muddle, where she creates awareness, connection, encouragement, and joy, along with a little humor. Prior to being a stay-at-home mom, Jamie was an event planner for corporations and associations. She received her bachelor degree in communications from John Carroll University. Jamie, I'm so happy to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Yay! Thanks, Kim. I'm happy to be on here with you.
Yeah.
This is exciting. I'm a little nervous, but we'll get through.
You're going to be great. You really are. And I love watching your Instagram stories because I think you're such a natural there, and you provide such amazing and funny content. I'm glad you added the humor part in your bio there because you are a funny girl.
Oh, thank you. I try. Sometimes not on purpose, but it just kind of happens. I can't make up some of this stuff. It just happens.
Aw, yeah. Well, Jamie and I actually went to high school together, and I believe you graduated a year ahead of me. Did you graduate in 92?
Yep.
Yep.
And we ran track together.
Yep, we sure did. So it seems like kind of a very, very long time ago. And then in other aspects, it feels sometimes like it was just yesterday. At least I kind of want to feel it like it was just yesterday because I don't like to talk about my age too much.
Yeah, it definitely, it has its moments where it feels like forever ago, but definitely I feel like, I mean, especially since my kids still go to the same school district that we went to, and I'm going into schools that I went to. It makes it feel like I haven't left, but it makes it feel like I've been there sooner, but it's
right.
Wow.
Right. And a tiger forever, right?
That's right.
I know. Right. So, well, before we get into, the interview and talking about, your daughter, I just wanted you to tell us a little bit more about yourself, where you live and your family, if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, I'm a born and raised Pittsburgh girl. I pretty much have lived in where I currently live in this general area for over 30 years.
Mm.
I love it here. As I said, my kids go to the same school district that I went to. Actually, my husband too. He was older than me, so I didn't know him till after. Um, I have a teenager now, which seems really odd, and it's going well so far. And I have Emily, my middle child with Down syndrome. She's a tween. And then I have a
Mm.
little guy who is 5 and just started kindergarten this year. So next year I'll have them all in school all day, but 3 different schools.
Oh, jeez.
So it will be good, but yeah, it's still crazy. Another thing is a little bit about me is I like to say I'm a recovering perfectionist and control freak. Those traits still come out, but I'm working on trying to not do it as much. I find that um, it's better. I have to let things go, and ever since I've learned that, it's making things a lot easier and a lot better. I'm finding more joy and happiness because of it.
I like that you have made that pretty clear, on some of your posts on Instagram. And that resonates with me a lot because I'm certainly everything you just mentioned, like, type A, perfectionist. And I think that is one thing that I don't know, maybe it comes with age or with time, and certainly with having kids, I'm sure you would agree with that,
Yeah.
that you just can't control everything. And so I have appreciated your insights, and you've had some really nice posts about that on Instagram, Jamie. And also, you're sort of like an amateur photographer, right? I mean, you take some gorgeous photos.
Oh, well, thank you. That is actually, yes, I have dipped my toes into photography a bit over the past probably about almost a year now, and I was always afraid to pick up my good camera,
Yeah.
and I love it. It actually is kind of one of the things I do to as like kind of self care for me, and I'm trying to capture moments and events and things that happen in our life so I can look back at it and not always just the stand here and look at me because that never works anyway. I
Mm-hmm.
can't get all 3 to look at me, and half the time someone is always putting their hand in front of their face. So to just capture some toes or stomping on a stomp rocket or something, just something to make me remember that time and how it was made me happy.
I love that. And I like that you just describe that as a form of self care. I think finding something that brings us joy is so important. And that's a nice way, too, to create memories for your kids. I think, people take photographs. I have like so many on my phone, but I sometimes don't do anything with them. But I think because yours are so professional looking, and that's someday going to be a real blessing for your kids. I'm glad we live in the age of technology versus just keeping like those baby books that our moms never
Yes,
wrote in. And
which
that
I
was her
have.
own.
JD actually, I don't even know if he has one. I don't.
I know. I did my best too for my boys, but
Yeah.
yeah. So I appreciate that about you, and just love your Instagram feed also because of that.
No, thank you.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, your daughter Emily has Down syndrome, and I wanted to just get into that and talking about you know what your life is like with Emily. And so when you found out, first of all, about Emily's diagnosis, what were your initial thoughts? And then also as a kind of a piggyback to that, what were some of the resources that were offered to you during those first few months of her life?
Yeah. Well, Emily's diagnosis of Down syndrome we got at birth,
Mm,
and it was a huge surprise. It also was not approached in a positive way.
mm.
Her birthday's July 4th. She came in with a
Oh.
bang. Um,
Oh.
so, yeah, everything. No one said anything. My doctor said nothing. As I look back, I remember seeing her like look at her hands and her feet and stuff, but no one made any concern. And it was like 1:30 in the morning. And so resident came in, because residents start they start their residency at the beginning of July, and came in
Mm-hmm.
and was just very proud of herself and said, "It looks like your baby has Down syndrome. You're going to need blood work." And
Oh
that was about it. And
my.
so it was very shocking. Um, it was very hard. My world went from complete joy to blackness. Everything I envisioned, I didn't know if I was having a girl or boy. So I had all these thoughts in my head, like, oh, if I have a girl, I have the two girls, they'll be in dance costumes and I'll take their pictures and all this stuff. And all of that stuff went instantly to black. I thought none of that would happen. I kind of felt like she was broken in a way, like I got a broken baby, but um, it was scary, very, very scary. And a lot of that was because um, I was clueless and very ignorant. I did not really know anything about Down syndrome. The thought of it possibly being an option never crossed my mind. I
Mm-hmm.
did no testing ahead of time or anything like that. I was under the age of 35, so it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't pushed that I get any testing. But it was really, really hard. And I was kind of all over the place with my feelings and my thoughts. And like I thought about Jenna and what I had done to her and her life. And it was very, very hard. It was a very difficult thing. And a lot of it was the way that it was told to us. It
Mm-hmm.
was told in a very cold and dark way. And that was tough. Um, so I struggled and I cried a lot. Um, and it did. And to be honest, it took me a very, very long time to truly accept it and get through it. Um, I remember within weeks of her life, we're very fortunate here in Pittsburgh to have the Down Syndrome Center, which I believe
Mm-hmm.
there are some throughout the country. The one in Pittsburgh, I'm biased, we're fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember our pediatrician got us, told us about it and got us an appointment there. And I remember them going through and telling us like different traits, like the crease across her hand. I have the same one, which is kind of strange. Like she only has it on one hand. There's a crease that will go a line straight across your palm. And individuals with Down syndrome tend to have that. They might have it on their feet too. Well, I have one on the exact same hand that Emily has. And there's different things they call, like they have like the sandal gap toe. So there's the space between your big toe and your next toe is a little wider. And I'm like looking at my toes and I'm thinking like they're wrong. She can't have Down syndrome. I have similar traits. It was it
Mm-hmm.
was a very hard thing for me to accept
Mm-hmm.
for quite a while. But I am fortunate that I have a fantastic pediatrician that, first of all, congratulated me, told me how beautiful she was,
Oh.
told me how healthy she was, and, it was going to be okay, and all of that. Um, she hooked us up with the Down Syndrome Center, which at the time I used to kind of dread those appointments because it was meant that things were real when I was trying to still find ways to make it not, to make them be wrong. Um, but now I love going there every year because they are
Oh.
such a source of information and support. Another thing that was so key was early intervention. And so Emily started physical therapy and occupational therapy within like a month old.
Oh wow.
And those were resources that were very key to us. I was also told about several different support groups, but I honestly refused to even look into them because I just couldn't. Like that just I couldn't deal with it. And I kind of wish I would have, but I can't live that way because then I just beat myself up. I was meant to take this path that I have taken, and that's why I try to share my story and create awareness with others that hopes that maybe somebody can feel better about it and not struggle as long as I did, and carry as much guilt as I did because I wouldn't reach out to others. So that's kind of, um, it took me a long time to actually admit a lot of how I felt.
Yeah.
That first, even that first year, it was Emily's first year was very, very hard with lots of things. I mean, lots of appointments and feelings, and I didn't want anybody to know how I truly felt, so I hid everything. And so it was hard, but we've gone through. She's 11 now, so, and it's gets better every year.
Well, Jamie, I hope that, today's message will be one of hope, just like you just mentioned, for parents out there. And, whether a child is born with Down syndrome or a different condition, um, I think you've touched on some important things I just want to highlight before moving on.
Mm-hmm.
That, you mentioned some of the words that you talked about were shocking, scary, difficult. You felt guilty. It was hard to accept. And I think those are very natural feelings to feel. But at the same time, like you said, you didn't want people to know that you probably felt guilty for feeling those feelings.
Exactly.
Mhm.
You several things there. One, as I said, I'm a perfectionist and a control freak. Here was stuff I could not control. Here was something that my perfect baby, my perfect family was now not perfect anymore in that unrealistic perfection kind of
Mhm.
thing. The other part was I was too worried judge how other people were going to judge me and judge my family and judge how I felt. And so I did not want anyone to know that I was grieving my perfect life, that I was
Mhm.
angry that
Mhm.
this happened to us and why it
Yeah.
happened to us. And just the sadness and being scared of what the future was, and
Mm.
what all the things I thought life would have, we wouldn't have anymore. I didn't want to tell anybody that because I didn't want anybody to think that i I loved her. I didn't love her,
Mhm.
or because I did. um, Plus I never liked to ask for help, so I didn't want
Mhm.
people to think that I couldn't handle this. And plus everyone was like encouraging me and telling me, oh, if anybody can do this, you can. And I was thinking, are you nuts? Like, no,
Yeah.
I'm not that person. And I didn't. So there was a lot of different emotions that happened. And I knew like my family and my friends were worried too, because this was all new to all of us. And I didn't want them to see me struggling or being scared, because I felt if I was, then they were going to be even more worried.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of, I hid a lot of stuff back then,
Mhm.
and it built up, and it was bad. And I shouldn't have held on to it for as long as I did, but that's okay. Cause like I said, that's how I was supposed to take this path. And that's why I'm hoping I can help others not have to take the same path I took, and to realize the good sooner than I did.
Yeah, and we learn from our experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure what a whirlwind of emotions, because you are, like you said, there's so much joy with the birth of a child, yet so much uncertainty once there's a diagnosis at birth. Um, and like you said, this was probably like your come to Jesus moment with being in control of your life and being that like perfectionist control freak. It really brings you to your knees,
Mm-hmm.
because you realize that you do not have control at this point. It is hard. It's hard to let others in, and I'm sure even though you were grateful for the intervention, that's hard because it becomes that you're scheduling your life around the therapies that Emily had to go
Yes.
to, and probably, visiting clinics and places. And then, like you said, you're taking on the emotions of your family, trying to, just brush everything off to an extent to show that you're feeling
Yes.
okay. So you're really painting a clear picture for me, especially, just to try to understand what you've gone through in your life. And I do hope that this will be very helpful for people who are listening to the podcast.
And I had a 2-year-old.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true. Right. So
That still needed
Jenna
my
was
help.
only,
Jenna and Emily are almost exactly 2 years apart.
so that's a lot in and of itself, because my boys are 20 months apart. And I look back and think, what, and how did I even do that?
Yeah.
Because, they were both in diapers, and yeah, that's hard. So throwing that into the mix, Jamie, is a lot.
Yeah, there was a
So,
lot.
mhm.
And I had to have these. The nice thing about early intervention is they come to your home. So,
Mhm,
but you're having these strangers come into your home,
mhm.
and it's all foreign to you, but the the nice thing about it is they end up becoming like family. The I love our therapists that we've had. We've
Mm,
had a lot. Em's had a lot of therapy, and they have all been such an important part of our life that if this would never happen, I would have no idea how these strangers can all of a sudden become like a part of your family and care about your child so much and
yeah.
you. And that is definitely a huge blessing. And I have cried my eyes out saying goodbye to a lot of our therapists as the
Mm.
years would go on, and we'd have to switch and go from early intervention to DART and to school and even private therapies.
Yeah. So there are some, certainly some blessings that have come with it, and just you're meeting other people and being
Mm-hmm.
humbled yourself, and having, that loving kindness from, basically strangers who then became your family.
Yes.
So great. That's such a wonderful, heartwarming part of the story. So I want to get into some specifics with Emily. So what are some of, the strengths that Emily has, or has, grown into over the years? What are some challenges that she has faced? It can be in the past or today. So if you just want to touch on some of those strengths and obstacles that you've seen with Emily.
Sure. Well, something Emily has always, one of her biggest strengths is her love. She is
Mm,
such a loving kid. I'm going to cry. This is so funny. I wasn't
that's
expecting
okay.
that. Um, no, it just kind of, I think back to a post I did back last October, and I talked a little bit about when she was born, and like some of my feelings and the emotions I had. And I came across the picture, and I'm holding her and I'm smiling, and I can tell my smile is fake.
Mm,
And she is just like looking right at me and smiling.
oh,
And that is one of her strengths. And it's like she's always letting us know it's going to be okay. That
mm,
we'll get through it. It will be hard, but we'll get through it. She also is a very determined kid. If there's something that she wants to do, she will eventually do it. That goes along with her being strong-willed, which is my nice way of saying stubborn, which can be a challenge, but sometimes also a strength. An example would be when she got to elementary school, she so badly wanted to do the monkey bars. I don't know
mm,
why, but she saw the other kids. She wanted to do those monkey bars, and they would tell me she would work at it and work at it and work at it, and she wouldn't let it go. she was going to do it, and she did. And she is the most amazing little monkey bar kid that, I mean, the whole school was so excited for her. They like
Aw.
the recess ladies went in and let the secretary go out and watch her do it. And, you know, that's one of her favorite things to do. And whenever she came home and told me that she did it, the smile on her face was
Oh.
amazing. And I like, from her strengths, she's teaching me stuff. Um, she's teaching me to be resilient and determined and to keep trying. You know, she has some some big challenges. She has severe speech apraxia, which is a motor planning process with your brain, and it's very complicated. Even I still can't truly explain it, but her speech is her biggest challenge. We're making strides right now, but you know, she's tried really hard. And you know, I look at her and I realize, you know, sometimes how it must feel to not have people understand you, and how hard it must be to try to let them know something. And luckily, because Emma is a loving kid, like, she'll definitely, and she's very expressive, so you can tell she's mad at you, and you can tell she's really happy with you. But that's definitely one of her biggest challenges, is her speech, which has also helped me be more compassionate in ways that I don't just instantly jump at her or get frustrated. I do. I mean, I do. She frustrates me, and I yell and I get mad. I'm a yeller. I'm also trying to not be so much of a yeller, but it's hard.
I'm laughing because I get
Oh,
it.
yes. It's like that time of the year where the windows open and the neighbors all hear me yelling at the kids, kind of thing starts happening. Yeah.
I get
So
it.
they all know now. They hear it. But yeah, so like, and then there's other challenges, just like, you know, you wouldn't think. I mean, she's in fifth grade, she's 11 years old. She still can't really button. I can't put pants on her that have zippers and snaps. She can't wear regular jeans. They have to be, thank God, leggings are popular and in style, because,
Yeah.
you know, those are the kind of pants she has to wear. She can't tie her shoes yet. You know, she has smaller fingers. So some of those things are really hard for her to maneuver. And with having low tone, that stuff makes it really challenging too. um, Academics, there's always that academics not problem, but that academic challenge. um,
Mhm.
and the speech tied in with it adds to it. But I know she can read. I don't know how much she can read because of her speech,
Mhm.
but she definitely can read. She can do some addition and subtraction. I mean, she's doing it. And you know, these are all things that I thought would never happen. It sounds ridiculous, but I guess I thought, I don't know, because I didn't know. I thought like she'd do nothing, I guess. But she is proving me wrong constantly. I mean, that dream that I said about my two girls in ballet costumes or whatever, it happened. I didn't think it was going to happen. That was a
Mm.
dream I thought would never happen. It did happen. So, you know, she has taught me, you know, patience and
Mm.
compassion and empathy, and also not to judge, which
Mhm.
is huge. You know,
Mhm.
we're too judgmental to so many people and kids. I'll tell you, anytime I'm anywhere and I see a kid acting out or something, I before Emily, I would have been like, oh my God, that kid's so bad. And now I'm like, who knows what's going on in their life, or what's happening, or what they're struggling with. And so I look at it a totally different way now, all because of her. So, you know, she has hit milestones, sometimes not, you know, the typical milestones when the other kids would hit them, but she's hit them. It just takes her a little bit
Mhm.
longer.
Yeah. I think those are some beautiful gifts that she's given you in your relationship with her. I think we can all use a dose of compassion and empathy. I have mentioned on this podcast before that one of my sons really struggles with behavior. And like you, even when I was a teacher, and
Mhm.
I used to not understand really, why are you not behaving? What is going on? What's wrong with the parents or what's wrong with this kid? I have so much more empathy today because of that. And I think sometimes it takes hard moments like that or hard situations for us to learn. So, what a great gift she's given you in that way. And I wanted to just touch on some things. I'm wondering your role as her mom. I know that there's so much that you do still need to do for her and to be there for her. And you've mentioned some of the therapies, that you've had to take Emily to, or that people come to your house. But I'm wondering, what are some of the things that you do specifically as her mom to support her through her journey?
Well, one of the I guess for me, what I think the number one thing that I do for her, other than drive her to therapies and practice, try to practice stuff at home and stuff, is I treat her no different than I treat my other two children.
Mm.
I don't, I might be a little bit more patient with her, but I don't just let her get away with anything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, I try not to make it different. I try to treat her exactly the same because I don't want her to feel that she's different, because she
Mm-hmm.
is. She's capable of doing a lot of things. Sometimes she just doesn't want to. And it's like,
Mm.
no, you have to do it. And she's just trying to push the envelope and see what she can get away with or whatever. And so, gets she loses iPads or movies and stuff like that. So that is one of the things I try to really do. I also try, to help instill life skills for her. She still needs help with lots of stuff. I have
Mm-hmm.
to tie her shoes. I still help her with baths or showers and washing her hair and brushing her hair. And she's doing really well getting like dressed and undressed on her own. I mean, she does have to like lay it out and sit on the floor to do it, but she's doing it. Um, I hope that that won't be how she gets dressed all the time, but that's for now. Hey, she's getting dressed. So that's a good thing. Um, Also trying to teach her like social skills of, you have to wait your turn and you can't always be first. And these are hard things. I mean, it's hard for anybody, but she needs to understand. I want her to be able to be a contributing member of society, not have people notice her first and not her Down syndrome.
Mm.
Not, teach her that she can't go hug everybody, because if you want, she's a great hugger, she'll hug you, but she can't just go up and hug anybody, like there's certain
Yeah.
things you have to learn. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to find different ways to help her academically and with her speech without making it feel like we're going through homework or drills and stuff like that. So it's trying to find a good balance is tough sometimes, but I try to do some different things or sneak some learning in, um, when she doesn't notice, or like tell her, let's go out and bounce on the trampoline, because that's really good core strength and for her. And
Mm-hmm.
she thinks it's fun. She doesn't realize that she's actually working. So,
Those are really good tips, and I like that you have to incorporate it into her day while also taking into consideration her feelings. I think that that's really important to touch on. That you said that you don't treat her differently than your other kids, and that she um, is expected to be able to learn and to grow just like every other kid. And I bet
mhm.
that can help her self-esteem as well. Would you say that that contributes to her self-esteem?
Yes. And I
Mhm.
think that's why she continues to try to do things and accomplish things, is because I don't make her feel like she can't. She
Yeah.
can. And it's just sometimes a little bit harder, or it might take a little bit more time. But to keep encouraging her and guiding her is the key.
Now, we'd like to take a minute to give a shout out to our show partners, Perfect Supplements and Amazon. Perfect Supplements is a family-owned and operated business that supports local farms. Their superfoods and supplements are non-GMO, third-party tested for purity, and contain no synthetic ingredients, colors, or flavors. They're also organic or wild harvested and fairly traded. Products range from collagen and bone broth powders to plant proteins, greens, desiccated liver, and adaptogenic herbs. Perfect also carries vitamins and supplements from other reputable sources like Just Thrive, Dr. Mercola, Gaia Herbs, Green Pastures, Garden of Life, and Prescript Assist. To check out their wide array of products, go to perfectsupplements.com/Kim. If you use coupon code KIM10 at checkout, you'll get 10% off your order. This is a great way to get superfood nutrition while helping to support our podcast. And just as a disclaimer, it's not the intention of our podcast to provide specific medical advice, but rather to provide you with information to better understand the role of dietary supplements in health. We urge you to consult with a qualified health provider to discuss both the advantages and risks of using dietary supplements. Our other show partner, Amazon, is the largest online warehouse and carries just about everything you need. If you shop on Amazon, which is likely, you can support our show at the same time at no additional cost to you. Simply use our affiliate link to enter the site, then browse and buy, just as you normally would. A Whole New You podcast will make a small commission from your purchase, which helps to support production costs for the show. You can find a clickable Amazon link in the show notes for this episode. You can also go to the products page of our website, awholenewyouPodcast.com, to find the link. If you love our show and appreciate the free information you get each week, please consider buying from Perfect or using our affiliate link when making purchases on Amazon. Now let's get back to the show. Well, you've mentioned, so there are a lot of things that you're doing on your own at home, but then you've also mentioned places like the Down Syndrome Center. So I'm wondering, what are some outside resources that you could recommend that are available to you or that have been especially useful to you and to Emily? And if you want to provide, I will put in the show notes links to places if you do have specific, therapies or places that you wanted to recommend.
Yeah. I have kind of a whole bunch of different things because
Okay.
I'm always reaching out, trying to find different tips and helpful things and stuff like that. But a couple books that have really changed my outlook and the way I look at this, and it kind of got me to start turning around. The first one, it's by Kelly Hampton, who is like my favorite blogger ever, and she actually is the reason why I take so many pictures. It is because of her. She has a beautiful memoir called Bloom, and it's about her daughter Nella, her first year of life. She was also diagnosed at birth with Down syndrome, and I found it. I forget how old Emily was when I found it, and I ended up buying it, and it actually started to get me to turn around and stop going down that dark path and kind of moving in a more positive way. Kelly Hampton also has a Instagram, like she has a blog. It's called Enjoying the Small Things, and she's on Instagram and Facebook. She is fantastic. Talk about looking for the positive in life. She has 3 kids also, kind of like similar to mine, so it's kind of funny. But so she has helped me a lot just to change my mindset and the way I look at things. Another book that was hard to read for me, but it was amazing, and I've reread it before. It's called The Roadmap to Holland, and it's by Jennifer Graf Groenberg. Not sure. I'm terrible pronouncing names. But okay. Basically what the book is about, why it's called The Roadmap to Holland, is how it starts out is it says you're all packed and ready to go on this amazing trip to Italy, and when the plane lands, they say, "Welcome to Holland." It's just as equally beautiful, but it's different and not what you planned. And there's a poem that kind of ties along with it that and it was so, when I read that, I was like, my God, it's so true. Like, I had this whole different vision of what was going to happen, but then it did, I landed in a different place that I never expected. And so those two books I think are really helpful if somebody even wants to just have a better understanding of what it's like to have a child with Down syndrome, or if they're just, found out they're either going to have a baby with Down syndrome or have a baby with Down syndrome. Another book I haven't read yet, but a lot of people have recommended to me, is called Expecting Adam by Martha Beck. It's on, I have so many books I want to read and I just have no time, but I've heard that's a really fantastic one too. So I did want to share that. I also find different Facebook groups are wonderful. We have one here in the Pittsburgh area called Rocking My Designer Jeans, because 21 chromosomes kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
Rocking My Designer
Oh, I
Jeans.
get it. I get it. I get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that's wonderful if you can reach out and find some Facebook group. It's nice. Other parents are pretty much like my number one go-to. They've been there, they understand, you know, they can give you advice or just say it's going to get better, because it will. We have the Down Syndrome Center, and then another helpful organization is the National Down Syndrome Society. They are the ones that do the Down Syndrome Conference, or the convention, which was in Pittsburgh this summer. And it was the first time I ever went. It was so amazing. I will travel to go to one again, because it was just, the connections and the education and the advocacy was unbelievable. Another group that I ended up connecting with while I was at the convention is called the Down Syndrome Diagnosis Network. They're on Instagram, and they have various categories in there, and it's just a lot of moms connecting and reaching out to each other. So you realize that you feel like you're very alone. That's one thing I forgot to mention, was you feel so alone. That's how I felt. That's how I've heard so many people say they felt so alone. When you actually start reaching out, you realize you're not alone, and you have so much support, and you have this special bond, and it's really wonderful. So I would say reaching out to other parents was probably the best thing I could have ever done, because then it has changed the way I look at everything. And Emily's teachers have been fantastic, and our therapists have been another amazing resources in our life.
So great that you have such a wonderful network, and some of those resources are really great. I love that you mentioned books too, because I think sometimes people need to kind of like internalize what's happening. Also, I would like to check them out myself, especially you mentioned Expecting Adam. That is my son's name.
Oh.
He does not have Down syndrome, but he definitely is different in a lot of ways and has some behavior struggles. But I would love to read those too, because I think that we can all. I think anytime that we're provided resources that we can learn from, we should just take advantage of that. So thank you for mentioning all of those. And I think that brings me to my next question, is just that, you've given us resources to help understand Down syndrome. But with any medical or genetic condition, I think that there are often misconceptions. So I'd like for you, Jamie, for a few minutes to talk about some of the common stereotypes or thoughts related to Down syndrome that might be incorrect or even offensive, so that we can better understand how to speak about Down syndrome and, just help us learn from that.
Sure. Well, I would have to say that the first thing and the most offensive thing for not only Down syndrome, but any person with any kind of disability is the word retarded. I hate saying that word, but it had to be said. Including any word with tard at the end. There's a lot of that libetard and all that stuff. It
Mm.
is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
I will be 100% honest and say I have used the word. I used it in the past. I even said it about a tree being cut down in my front yard in front of Emily's physical therapist. I almost died when it came out of my mouth at that point. I realized I couldn't even believe I said it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's hurtful. And people say words don't hurt, but yes, they do. And I think when you have a person in your life that you love so much and people are going to use this offensive word and hurtful word, it just rocks me now. And that's why I tell people, like, I'm not telling, I've said it. I'm guilty of it.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea what it meant. Now I do. And so I'm asking that we don't use that word. There's other words you can use. You don't have to use that word.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to not say anything. And now I've been a little bit more, I don't yell at my friends or anybody, but when someone says something, I might send them a little private message and be like, you know, I just want to let you know how offensive that word is and how hurtful it is. And then they realize, oh my God, I didn't realize that. And they take it down, or, they don't do it again.
Yeah.
That's the number one thing. Another thing is, you know, I really want people to look at Emily first and not her diagnosis as the first thing they look at. So, they call it the people first language. So you recognize
Mm-hmm.
the person before the condition. So, yes, Emily has Down syndrome, but to say she's Downs, or that is not, that's not who she is. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people have issue with that, and I kind of get it. I mean, I do understand. I didn't understand at first why saying, just referring to her as having Downs was, but I kind of do now, because that's, her diagnosis is Down syndrome. It was
Mm-hmm.
Down syndrome first came no, was first known from a English physician named John Down. He published an article about the characteristics and stuff of Down syndrome. So that's why it's called Down syndrome. It's not because he had Down syndrome, it's because
Mm-hmm.
that was his last name. So, I think that is another thing we have to remember, is to look at the person, not their diagnosis. Um, it's not a disease, it's a genetic condition. There's 3 copies of her 21st chromosome. That's what makes her the way, have Down syndrome and have certain characteristics. People think all people with Down syndrome look the same. They have similar characteristics, but they don't all look the same. Another thing is just that, maybe they'll never get married or go to college or have a job, or all of those things are possible. Will all those things happen? Maybe not, but they are possible. Um, there's also the thoughts that a child with a disability has a negative impact on their siblings. That is not true. I believe that Emily is helping her siblings become better people, be kinder people, more compassionate, more understanding, bigger cheerleaders, that if she wasn't in our life, we would not have. I think, that's basically the most thing. I mean, will a child with, or an individual with Down syndrome have more challenges? Yes, they'll have challenges. They may have some medical challenges, but they might not. Um, there's some kids that right after birth end up with heart surgery. Emily did not have that. She had a hole in her heart, but it closed on its own. So, like, there's different things. It's not a one fit all kind of thing. I
Mm-hmm.
think we just need to remember that they're people first and not a diagnosis.
Yes. I'm just taking notes, Jamie,
Sure.
because you said some really important things. Um, I think that's really important because I'm thinking, Emily has Down syndrome, but other people have other conditions. So I'm thinking about like, you wouldn't, this was one thing when I worked as a nurse in the hospital that would kind of drive some of us crazy, is like, some of the nurses or the aides would say the diabetic in room 122.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that's what it reminded me of. And just thinking like how ridiculous that sounds. There's a man in there and
Yeah.
his name is John. And, just because he has diabetes, so it is sort of hurtful, and it becomes a stereotype. And one other thing I wanted to ask you, if you've come across too, because I've heard this, and it's more from the mother standpoint, but I think that there's a common thought that older women, give birth to children with Down syndrome. And as you mentioned, you were under 35.
Correct.
So have you come across that sort of like misconception?
Yes. I mean, I even thought that. So,
Mm-hmm.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's out there because I think because once you get older, the
Yeah.
chances are higher. But
Yeah.
a lot of the moms that I know with children with Down syndrome were under 35 when they had them, even in their 20s. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's a genetic thing. It's just how it
Mm-hmm.
happens. I mean, we don't have anybody else in our family that has Down syndrome. We may never have anyone else that has Down syndrome in our family.
Right.
It was just something that happened. And I guess, my OB even said that she's had more patients under 35 having children with Down syndrome than over. I don't know
Interesting.
why it exactly
Mm-hmm.
is like that, but um, it just seems to be, yes,
Mm-hmm.
a misconception, and it causes a lot
Mm-hmm.
of fear in women over 35.
Right.
Also, like, I mean, JD, I had him at 40, and I'll be honest, I
Mm-hmm.
was scared because I
Mm-hmm.
still wasn't 100% okay with the whole Down syndrome thing. And I was like, I don't know if I can handle another child,
Yeah.
and I'm going to be 40 when I have this baby, and everything. And I did do, at that time, they offered the blood test at 10 weeks, and I did that. And it came
Mm-hmm.
back with saying that there was pretty much no chance that the baby had
Mm-hmm.
Down syndrome. So I didn't have to do any further testing. I just did it because I just needed to know, to
Sure.
prepare myself. So here I had a baby at 34 with Down syndrome, and I had a baby at 40 and didn't. So yeah, it is a misconception. It is true, I guess, to a point, but not
Mm-hmm.
always.
Right. So, Jamie, what are some things how do you take care of yourself? We've been talking about Emily, we've been talking about therapies, we've been talking about, you know, everything else. But how about you? I'm interested in you. You have a lot on your plate. You have 3 children, all spread out, different ages. And so, what are some things that you do to take care of yourself, to implement self care, especially during those challenging times?
Well, unfortunately, the only way I can have time to myself is if I get up way before everybody else. So I tend to get up around 5 a.m. and I come downstairs and I do a little daily meditation with my Calm app on my phone, which I absolutely love. I
Mm,
sometimes even use it in the evening if I'm noticing my mind is racing to do like a sleep story. But I do that first, and then I do my Yoga with Adriene on YouTube, which
hmm.
I absolutely love. And I'm telling you, it sounds ridiculous, but it seriously was a life changer for me. It
Yeah.
is. I've Over the years, I've sometimes fallen off and been like, no, I want to sleep. I'm not going to get up. And I totally can see the difference in my mind, in the way I
Mm,
approach things, and even in my body. I need to do this meditation and my yoga to clear my head, get myself in the right place so I am calmer as the morning craziness begins. And I will be honest, when the kids wake up early and come down while I'm in the middle of it, I freak out on them. I do, because I'm like, I just got up at 5 a.m. so I could have some time. Now get out of here. Go back upstairs. Leave me alone. This is like my only time. So,
right.
which defeats the whole purpose. However, I'm just like, go away. But It doesn't happen all the time, but it do it to me
Yeah.
sometimes, and it does make me crazy. But those things I have
Hmm.
to do. I also
Yeah.
try to, when I'm done with that, I try to like write out like a mantra or like an affirmation for the day. Like I'll write a lot of what I've been writing lately because I've had a lot of extra stuff going on. Is I write, if you don't like something, change it. If you can't change it, change your attitude. And
Hmm.
I try to remind myself of that throughout the day. I also try to remind myself to be kind and compassionate to myself and to others, and to be present and to be grateful. And if I start my day off like this without people interrupting me, I could definitely feel a difference in the way I approach the day. So I really try to
Hmm.
do that. Like I said, I don't really want to be up at 5 a.m., but I know how it makes me feel, so I end up dragging myself out of bed and I do it, and it makes a world of difference for me. Um,
Yeah. We did an episode a while back, and it was about the importance of morning routines. And Chanel Nielsen we interviewed, and
mhm.
it was the same thing. Actually she does yoga with Adrian too. So
She's
I need to look
awesome.
into
She's
that.
funny, and she's awesome. I love it.
But I think that even though it is hard, to get out of bed, sometimes you do need the extra sleep. But I think if you can, um, get up, or just to preserve that time, because like you said, it just sets the mindset for the rest of the day.
Yes.
And there's nothing wrong with telling kids to go away for a little bit
I probably
because
could do it a
it,
little nicer, but
I love it. That's so funny. Well, Jamie, we're gonna approach the end of our time here, but I wanted to ask you, um, because you've been through this, what advice would you give to moms of children who are newly diagnosed with Down syndrome or other special needs? Any parting words of wisdom that you would want to pass on to them?
sure. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations on your beautiful baby. I think sometimes we forget to say that because
Mm,
we get a lot of "I'm sorry," and I got it too, and I
mm,
know, and I don't feel like, I'm not mad that anybody said that to me because I didn't realize I was in such a place that I kind of did want people to feel sorry for me. Um,
yeah.
but I would say, actually, congratulations, because you you have a beautiful baby that is going to be such a wonderful addition to your life. Um, also allow yourself to go through all of the emotions, feel them, take as long as you need to get through them. Do not beat yourself up over feeling them. Everybody feels them, everybody goes through them, and everybody takes a different amount of time to get through them. So, allow yourself to do this and do not feel bad about it. Um, Also, do not think that by feeling all of these emotions, that means you do not love your baby. You love your baby so much, and it's why you are feeling all of these things. So don't let anybody make you think that you don't, by feeling those things, that you don't love your baby, because you do, and it's okay. Please ask for help. It takes a village. Even those that think they can do it all, me, realize that, take the help. Um, you'll appreciate it later, and people want to help. So take it and ask for it and take it. Um, this is going to be challenging. It's going to be overwhelming. Um, Being a parent to any child is challenging and overwhelming. You just have some added things, added doctor's appointments, therapies, different things, new worries, but you will get through it. You will survive. You can do it. Even if you think you can't, you can. And you will come out even stronger and better than you ever imagined. This, this might not be what you dreamed of, your family, your baby, your life. But, and believe me, this was not what I thought my life would be at all. I had what I thought the perfect uh, pictured life would be. Um, And it's not what I pictured at all, but it actually is even better than I could even imagine. It might take some time to realize it, but you will, and you will find out that you have such a blessing, um, such a gift. You will learn things about yourself that you didn't know, and your child will give you so much love and so much compassion and so much patience and so much pride and joy. Um, you will not take for granted little things. You will celebrate everything, and it will be awesome. And for those that got a Down syndrome diagnosis, I'd like to welcome you to the lucky few. You will find out what that means. There's in the Down syndrome community, we like to say that we are the lucky few, and it basically means that you have no idea like how great life is. Like your child with Down syndrome has just impacted your life in such a positive way and taught you things and appreciate things that most people will never have that opportunity unless they have an individual with Down syndrome in their life.
Oh, I'm tearing up here, Jamie. I love that. The lucky few.
Yes.
That's a great way to end.
There's a little symbol, which someday I may get brave enough to put the little tattoo on me. I'm not sure yet. I'm a big wimp, so we'll see.
That would be beautiful. Well, Jamie, thank you so much for being here. I just want to,
Well, thank you.
Encourage our listeners to go and follow you on Instagram, and you have a blog as well. Can you give everybody your social media handles and your blog information?
Yes. So on both Instagram and Facebook, you can find me at Mindful in the Muddle, which is Muddle. My blog, my website is jamiekarlovits.com. So that's JamieKarlov, as in Victor, ITS as in Sam.com.
Okay. Thank you so much again for being here, Jamie. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, we wish you all the best, and please give our love to Emily as well.
Oh, thank you. I will.
That's it for today. For more from Kim, you can go to kimmaravich.com. For more from Lori, go to simplyempoweredllc.com. We're always open to listener questions or suggestions for the show. You can email those to contact@awholenewyou.podcast.com. We'd also love it if you joined our Facebook community and followed us on Instagram. Just search for A Whole New You podcast. And lastly, if you'd be so kind as to leave us a rating and review in iTunes, we would really appreciate that so more people can find our show and join our community. We'll see you next week.